Hello everyone, and this is my review for TNA Impact Wrestling on May 15th, 2015. And, I felt this episode of Impact was... It was effective enough in what they wanted to do in continuing their storylines. And I'll go ahead and just kind of go through the segments, just basically as I remember them at this moment in time. I'll just go through what they did as a whole in these segments as well. I'll go ahead and start off with what they did with the Dollhouse. Again, the match with Jade and Marty Bell and Brooke and Rebel. It was a good and effective way of trying to show more dominance from the Dollhouse, where they controlled pretty much the entire match. Very little offense on the opposite side. Them getting the quick win. They kind of teasing something a little bit later on in the night, which, in the end wasn't all that much. It was basically them making it an attempt at it being more personal between Gail Kim and Tara Terrell in the end. The segment later on in the show where she's gonna try to get with Gail's husband and everything like that. It was a good attempt at them trying to make things personal between Tara Terrell and Gail Kim at this point, and it wasn't overly bad. It wasn't overly great either. And like I said, it was a pretty good and effective way of trying to get some more heat behind the match, or behind this particular feud in general. So they kind of did what they needed to do there. The segments with Tyrus, EC3, and Mr. Anderson. Obviously, what is it? I'm looking for the proper wording here. In one sense, you have a relatively good promo off by both Mr. Anderson and EC3. Obviously, Mr. Anderson trying to get another match with EC3, sets it up to where if he beats Tyrus, he gets another match. Initially, EC3 says no, but eventually, Tyrus has the match, and it does eventually lose. The match itself was kind of ho-hum. I didn't really care too much for the Mr. Anderson and Tyrus match. That's mostly because I'm not a big fan of Tyrus or Brutus Clay, or however you want to put him in there. He's not, for a big guy, he's rather athletic and agile, but he doesn't put on the best matches and I'm not saying he's go out there and put on 5-star matches or anything like that. He really doesn't. He just kind of needs to be that big brute, but he doesn't really come off in that sense all that much either. I mean, his matches, like I said, just don't come off all that good to me in any way. I wish they did. Like I said, he puts on some good spots in there and shows some good agility and good athleticism for a big guy, but it doesn't. His matches don't seem to flow in any way, and that's one of the big issues there. And I mean, they're just using this match to continue on the EC3 and Mr. Anderson storyline, setting up another match between the two of them later. So I mean, in that sense, it did what it needed to do. It continued on that storyline, so that was not necessarily the bad thing there. It's just I'm not a big fan of seeing Tyrus in the ring. I just kind of want to see him be that big bodyguard outside for EC3, helping him out when he needs it. And I think, honestly, I kind of think that's where they should just kind of leave him at this point in time. But that's my own personal opinion on that side. Let's see here. Sorry guys, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here for some odd reason. The James Storm Magnus storyline. That was the one I wanted to go to next. Or in this case, the Revolution. You have Magnus come out and calling out James Storm. This was one segment I did like in general, especially with how all the segments were handled in the end. Not match, but the beatdown of Magnus by all the Revolution members. Obviously, it's starting out with Abyss, but eventually Manic and Koya come out there and they kind of finish off the job and everything. Relatively good brawl. Kind of got how Magnus could hold him off for a little while, but obviously the numbers got to him in this case. And I also liked how they're portraying James Storm, making it feel like he doesn't want the Revolution people to help him out in this case. He'd rather handle this one on his own with him, Mickie James, and Magnus. Obviously, trying to continue on that ploy and trying to continue on the mind games and everything in that aspect. So I'm liking where this storyline's actually going. And I felt that the backstage segment with James Storm, Manic, Koya, and Abyss came off really well. I'm more interested in seeing where this storyline goes over the next couple weeks. So we'll see where they decide to go on with that. I did enjoy this segment and the segment with Koya, Manic, Abyss, and Magnus as well. I thought they came off really well. Decent, really good promos on all sides there. I'm actually liking how they use Magnus now than when they did when he was world champion, which is kind of it's not sad, but it's kind of funny that that's the case now, that he's more enjoyable to watch now than he was back then. Back when he was actually champion and trying to be pushed even further. So let's see here. Sorry about that again. I don't know why. I keep losing my train of thought right now, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it was because I had to watch the 3 matches with Jesse Goddard and Robbie E. I get what they're trying to go for. They're trying to go for who is the best bro man, everything like that. But the whole aspect of them having 3 matches in one night, and they pretty much lasting all of like 7 minutes in total, was even more the funny aspect to it. Now, I mean, it isn't overly bad because obviously I think they're going to try to go for a more physical type feud down the road here, and that's not it's not going to be a horrible thing to him, but I don't really see too many people caring about this one. The bromance had kind of lost their steam already, and most of the fans aren't caring at this point in time. So, though it could be interesting to watch the feud, I don't think there's going to be too many people that are caring. I know I'm not in that sense or in that spot as well. So, I mean, we'll see where they go along with it, and we'll just see how it ends up turning out. Maybe it could be one of those feuds where you think you're not going to care, but then you end out kind of liking the feud and where it goes. So you never know in that sense. This brings me to what the main storyline of the night was, which was the Hardcore War, which honestly kind of came out of nowhere, with Team Angle versus Team Young. I liked the opening segment where they were garnering the teams together and everything like that. You had the members of the Rising, Chris Melendez, and Lashley after the attack happened, joining up with Team Angle. You obviously had the BDC joining up with Eric Young. The promo between Young and Angle was pretty much what you had been seeing a lot as of late, especially out of Eric Young. It wasn't bad by any stretch. It was relatively decent on all sides, but like I said, it's pretty much been what you've seen over them over their promos as of late. Nothing really new there. The segments backstage with members of Team Angle and the members of Team Young, how Young was saying, I've got a guy that's going to be coming in because Homicide wasn't going to be coming in to help out with BDC side. And you had the Rising going out there and basically was like, okay, only 2 of us are allowed to be a part of the team, which was kind of weird that they decided to go that route. But obviously with them having Chris Melendez and Bobby Lashley in there, and you're supposed to be 5-on-5, so they had to take out one of the members of the Rising. Honestly, I feel in this sense that they kind of wasted Bobby Lashley's return to TV in this case by kind of throwing him in here, especially since they were going to put over Eric Young in the end. And I'm actually glad that they did that. They set up the I Quit match for a later time and date between Kurt Angle and Eric Young, and they decided to put Eric Young over in this case. He needed some more momentum after how last week's match went with him and Kurt Angle, so I'm glad that they went on that aspect of having him go over in the match. The ending of after the match, aspect where he takes Chris Melendez's leg and then chokes out, hits Kurt Angle with it and chokes him out with it. You know, it falls on one of those aspects, and I'll fall under the kayfabe side of it. It's a good way for him to get heat in this case. It's because you're going to have so many people like, oh, why could he do this? And it makes him look like a completely despicable guy by doing something like that. Obviously, in the terms of what you would think in real life and everything like that, you would not want someone to actually do that. So that is definitely a good way for him to garner even more heel heat, which he had already done a lot of in this case. And I think this kind of just puts him over the top on that. So all in all, effective to the storyline, and we'll see how they continue on with, especially continue on with Angle and Eric Young. Obviously, they're going to continue on with that here very soon, especially with an I Quit match coming up. The match with you also had the best of 5 series match with Austin Aries, Bobby Roode, the Dirty Heels versus the Wolves. I thought this was a relatively good match, good way of starting the series between them. I like how you do have, even though at this point in time, Bobby Roode and Austin Aries are still considered faces, they were kind of using heel team tactics in there by double teaming and everything like that. Maybe a potential heel turn down the road. I thought it was a good way of going by having the Wolves come out on top first. And like I said, this adds to the potential of an actual heel turn for Bobby Roode and Austin Aries down the road, if that's the route that they're going to go with it. And that could definitely be a good way of going. So we'll see how this best of 5 series continues on here in the very near future as well. So overall, Impact was okay this week. It was a pretty good show. The storylines that they did were, the stories that they did throughout the show were effective to the storylines in a good way this week. Like, each one had its own effectiveness, and it progressed the storylines. It didn't necessarily hinder them in any way, shape, or form. So that's a good thing on that one. Some of the segments were kind of meh and not all that great, but they were at least effective enough of keeping the storylines going, which is a good thing in there. That's why I'm saying that this show was, a relatively good, an okay show to watch this week. So that's my review for TNA Impact Wrestling, and I thank you guys for watching.